1 this morning. Welcome to Business Express with Rotus.
Yes. Good morning, Fola. Good morning, Lagos. We have Wale Okunriboye of Sigma Pensions with us. Wale, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Excellent. So, Lagos, you guys, you know the drill. 0809 444 0981 is our WhatsApp number. Tweet us at Smooth981FM. We're also streaming live. I believe it's YouTube or Twitter or one of the various streaming channels. Let's get into it. The market resumed its downward trend yesterday, 0.14%. Not going to dwell too much on it because Wale, there's just not much to talk about in the stock market. Down by 0.14%. The top gainer yesterday was Champions Breweries. The top loser was NEM Insurance. Let's get into the press conference that was held by Mr. Godwin Emefiele, the CBN governor, who was charting a path for us to view for his second term in office. While we start with where we actually left off yesterday, we quickly touched on this, but we didn't get into much detail yesterday. Central Bank is offering NYSC core members loans for a 7-year tenure. And Mr. Emefiele said this in Abuja while he was receiving the Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier Shuaibu Ibrahim. He said that the loan disbursement was developed out of the need to curb the rate of members should attend the bank's various entrepreneurship training centers, so on and so forth. They'll get a 2-year moratorium on the loan where they don't have to pay back any interest for 2 years, so they can develop themselves, so on and so forth. Wale, my question to you is, and also Lagos as well, please chime in. We have SMEDAN, the SME, the Development Association of Nigeria for SMEs. We got the Empower program, which also is skills acquisition. We got the Bank of Industry that is also doing the same thing. On this show, we talked about Procter and Gamble signing an MOU with the Ministry of Trade and Investment to develop an SME academy, which was supposed to help out about 30-something million SMEs. While they left and right and left, there's just one SME academy popping up, skills training. Do we see any? How do you see this being effective? That is my question for you.
Well, I think it again comes back to the fact that a lot of these segments are underserved,
Mm,
and so that's because from the formal credit system, rather the banking system, the way it's set up today is, the rules around it tend to set largely corporates.
right.
People, most banking sector loans are largely to 80 to 90, 80, over 80% of banking sector, at least 70, 80% of banking sector loans are to corporates, and
Right.
so there's not much room for retail or very small, medium tier enterprises. So what the central bank is doing is expanding on its development finance mandate and trying to provide access to these underserved segments to credit. And as amiable as it is, the problem is it sustainable over time?
Mm,
How much can you do? If you look at the size of the demand for potential demand for credit by people who are running SMEs, Nigeria has a large informal sector of the economy. The informal sector is quite large, and so it's always going to be like a dip in the ocean. These kind of initiatives.
mm.
So,
Well, we push on. Thanks for that. We'll see how that goes. If anyone out there has heard of this, try to apply and so on and so forth, do send us a message. The another thing that came out of this press conference, uh, the CBN moves their financial inclusion target from 80% in 2020 to 95% in 2024. Wale, I have to tell you that on Twitter, this was greeted with quite a bit of cynicism, but maybe we can shed some light on this. So, what's happening? Looks like the target has increased.
yeah, but I think also it's the realism of next year. Next year they're unlikely going to get to 80%.
Mm.
So if they're unlikely going to get to 80%, then I guess
Like,
eh, then let's be realistic and push and extend the day forward. But then raising it, then I think it's just a Nigerian thing.
mm,
Yeah, once you miss you,
you must increase
yeah,
increase
you
the
have to
target.
increase it. Yeah.
Realistically, though, when we talk about financial inclusion, can you leave out the telcos? I think for a long time now we've said that they would possibly be the driver of financial inclusion. I don't know. I feel like some folks out there feel that they're, as far as the payments, PSB licenses and so on, we're a little late in getting there. But where are you with that? Is it still through them, or are there other avenues that we can?
I,
Uh,
I think you're right. Because if you look at it, you have Africa and indeed Nigeria has a very large population that is unbanked, and trying to meet them through the formal system or the formal financial system is going to be difficult. However, you have a distribution or a way of reaching them, which is mobile. I mean, mobile penetration rates in Nigeria have risen from where they used to be in the early 2000s. And so, because of that, I mean, we've seen pretty successful experiments in East Africa where mobile money has become a big thing. And for the telcos, I think they are perhaps the easiest way to reach that segment, that underserved segment. I mean, they have all their information because everybody had to register and with the same registration. So you have pretty much up to date KYC information on these guys. And you also have a means of collection as well, because whenever they're buying credit, you can also sort of use that as a means of collection. And then importantly is that they're the only ones with that kind of retail, I mean,
The reach. I mean,
yeah, with that reach. So I think looking to provide financial services through telcos is a welcome idea. I mean, we're late in getting to that game, obviously, but I think
better late than never.
better late than never. Yeah.
All right, you know what? Still on financial inclusion. What about? I think we talked. I talked about you on another platform elsewhere about this. Facebook's Libra. I mean, I know this is reaching because it probably needs to be approval from governments. But there's been talk about that kind of thing increasing financial inclusion. 'Cause I think that's what Facebook is looking at doing. Of course, I guess the CBN would have to give the okay for that kind of thing to be able to assist with financial inclusion. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's a long time.
yeah.
I know I'm reaching
Yeah,
here, but what do you think?
although again, I always want to be maybe throw a bit of caution because I suspect that will require a lot of internet. I mean, more phones in Nigeria and use in Nigeria are not smartphones.
Right.
So I think we have to. I mean, how much of what is the percentage of Nigerians that are on social media and things like that?
Right.
It's probably smaller relative to the wider or broader market. I think the basic operations that you have in Kenya, I mean East Africa, I think if we start with that, we can make more headway. And then maybe Facebook and things can be for people who are more involved in cross-border transfers and things like that. But for now, I think we can just start with
here.
yeah,
Focus on here.
here.
What do you guys think? What do you listeners think of moving the target to 95% financial inclusion in 2024? As Wale has said, we're not meeting the 80% target, so they've moved it on up. Gwenga Kamu says, but is the CBN not doing so much? They seem to be everywhere. And the new economic plan, the CBN, given the fact that the new Minister of Finance may come on as a contrary view and another fiscal direction. Benga, thanks for that. Benga also touches on the recapitalization of banks. He is not too optimistic about where this is going. He says, so we're back to the recapitalization of banks again. The last exercise created mega banks that today, according to their capital, are small banks. At least we know our currency has been at least you know our currency has been devalued over the years, but can the initiatives of the CBN leave us better off? Okay, that's a good question. So while we go into that, because also at the very same press conference, the governor did signal on Monday as to the fact that there's going to be a recapitalization. Can you talk about his logic as to why he said that needs to be done?
Well, so in his press conference, I think he was saying that, I mean, when we had the 25 billion naira minimum capital base, that was in 2005.
Right.
Naira was a much stronger currency than today. Today, naira has moved to about 360 thereabouts. So it means that in dollar terms, that number is much smaller than where we used to be. And so the ability of banks to be able to do much bigger things may be in doubt. You get. So I mean, I think it's just in keeping with trends that we're seeing globally as well. Globally, banks are moving to a level of, I mean, regulatory bodies are moving to a level of more capital, particularly more liquid capital, and more ensuring that less mismatches on balance sheets with regards to how banks are funded.
Right.
So I think it's just keeping with that trend. Nigeria is also going to join that trend of, I mean, higher capital for banks, because the only way, because people are sort of looking at, look, I mean, we're going into a world where increasingly you're having more global financial connections, I mean, which increases the risks of shocks and things like that. So banks need to hold more buffers so as to prevent bailouts and things like that. So I think the general tendency has been, because banks engage in risk-taking activity, I mean, the whole business of a bank is take money from the deficit unit and give it to it. So a surplus unit and give it to a deficit unit and take a price for the risk. Right. So they have an incentive to always want to create risk. And so people have always felt that if they don't have sufficient capital buffers and it gets eroded, then they have to draw down on government and things like taxpayers' money.
Right.
And so as a way of sort of curtailing that, capital buffers have progressively gone higher. So I think it's always, and I think even here as well, generally most banks always keep keep trying to push whatever their CR is always high.
Okay, good stuff. So we'll see. He didn't give us an indication of the amount. I guess we'll wait to see what that is. Shola sends a message. Shola says targets are meant to be moved. The issue is, will they be implemented? I'm trying to. Can anyone tell me any targets we've set that we've met? I don't know. Anyway, if you can think of one we've set that we've met, remind me, please. Chidi says, Rotus, the issue I have with the CBN is that they are not running in line with financial institutions, and this inability is dragging our financial institutions backward. Yinka wrote to something different to our airlines, for example. Don't you think there's a need to always recognize some well-meaning Nigerians? Because I'm talking about this, Prof, and dude, with us. Yinka, what are you sending? I think the airlines should be blamed for this. Okay, Yinka, that's not a business story. I think he's talking about the guy who asked the elder person to move. Yinka, let's talk about what are your thoughts on, is it Ibom Air, the new state's airline that just lifted off? I think they have like 3 airlines. What does that mean for the aviation industry? Also, do you think ticket prices are in line with market trends? A lot of people have said that ticket prices are too cheap. That's what we want you to ask about, Yinka, not the brouhaha with seats. Okay, well, let's move on. Yinka, we appreciate your messages as usual. Let's move on to the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission has finally inaugurated its board, which I believe they put together in 2015. A commercial lawyer with over 30 years of experience, Mr. Olufemi Lidaju, is the new board chairman. What are your thoughts? A lot of us, I think on this show, a lot of people sent in messages talking about how there's no board of the SEC, what's going on. Any indication as to why this is finally happening?
Yeah, I think it's, as you said, it's long overdue. I think the biggest thing is, without a board, certain actions are always difficult to sort of push through at the SEC and most government agencies. So the requirement of a board just means that they can take more. And because you don't have it, when you didn't have a board, the Director General was also in an acting capacity. So some of the actions that were taken, probably, they were probably testable.
Right.
So having a board, however, provides some veneer. Authority. Yes, this is SEC acting in its own capacity with full approval from his board as well. So I think it's something that
we should work.
We had for not just about regulatory bodies in the financial industry didn't have a board for close to 4 years. And I think it was a big issue because if you don't have a board, then and some of the Director General acting capacity just sort of raises doubts as to what's really going on there.
Wale Okunriboye of Sigma Pensions, thank you so much for joining us on Business Express. Run out of time. Real quick, Damilare is not too optimistic about the 95% target, but he thinks with telcos that's going to work. And Ugoma, we see your message as well on the CBN. Thank you so much all for your messages. We will catch you again tomorrow, 6:45 a.m. sharp. Take it easy.
On Smooth 98.1.